By mid-December, it seemed like the Japanese had given up whatever game they'd been playing. Mere weeks after he'd appeared, Mr. Shiro just went and vanished from city streets, bars, and tea houses. At least, so far as I could tell. Maybe the Japanese had found someone to do their dirty work. But even if they did, well, they were playing with a losing hand. Only I could do what they wanted, how they wanted it, or so I like to think. Like that, the Japanese job became just another story. A mystery told at parties and across hotel bars. A curiosity confined to memory. At least, for a while. For me, it was back to business as usual, or at least as close as I could get given the season. As the cold finally set in across the northern plain and up the Yangtze, most business slowed to a crawl. Hell, Manchuria had been frozen over since November. Shanghai was still as bright and bustling as ever, but yours truly had to find another way to spend the extra time, and the extra cash. Some might have turned to the more visceral vices. They sure didn't call Shanghai the whore of the Orient for nothing. Myself, though, I found another calling. Another sort of business, more to my taste. Now, if I were a real high roller, I might have gone all in at the race club or the canadrome, bet on a hound or a horse with a lucky name. A step down, and I might have mingled with the crowds at the Fusheng for roulette or Peugeot. Me, I preferred things down a few more steps, followed by what most of my countrymen would have called a tumble into the gutter. I spent my leisure time away from the bright lights, down an alley off Kaifeng Street, in an establishment known mostly jokingly as Li Fa Dian, the barber shop, after the street shaver who hawked his trade at the alley entrance. There, with a close-knit crowd of regulars, you didn't have to worry about getting cheated. At least, not in the usual institutional fashion. See, catching the other kind of cheating, the honest, under-the-table kind, was just part of the game. At least, that's how I saw things.
等等，你以为得了便宜，我们就这么轻易的让你走了？
Oh, come on, buddy. I had no idea that card was there. Others didn't always agree. Sometimes their arguments could be pretty persuasive. That's how I found myself flat in the mud off Kaifeng Street in late December 1935.
小子他妈敢作弊，真是不知好歹！臭崽子作弊不服，还想打架？
Hey, you gave me a good swing. Let's leave it at that, huh?
Alright, boys, game's over. He's coming with me.
哎，跑什么？咱还没聊完呢。
Oh. My Chen. Yours is the last face I'd expected to see. What the hell are you doing here?
Looking for the great Joshua Duncan. And, apparently, saving his ass too.
Hey, I was handling it. And it's Frank, to my friends. Assuming that's what you are.
Sure. Why not?
And you found me... how, exactly?
The barber. He keeps an eye on things. Now come on, I'm not being paid to hang around. The car's waiting. You'll need it somewhere.
Why?
You'll find out soon enough, and... Hey, I think you owe me one, Duncan. Besides, don't you trust me?
To be honest, not really.
Look, Duncan, if I wanted you dead, I would have let your friends have their way and finished you off later.
Fine. My Chen was an old acquaintance, though not so old that it meant much. Over the past several years, she'd appeared on and off at some of my usual haunts, like the Yanyu or along the Bund, usually staying only long enough to pass on some message or other. Young and attractive, she always caught someone's eye, but rarely the suspicious kind. The most reliable rumors, which weren't very reliable, made her out as the daughter of some shipping magnate, or by a second or third concubine. I'd always figured Chen for an informant, but I hadn't guessed she could drive.
Looks like you picked up quite a bruise back there.
Can't fault his aim. Does it at least add to my roguelike charm?
I heard you nearly got one just like it a few weeks back. They run in with some German officer.
Lieutenant Gluck? Yeah, he's a nut. A real asshole.
Oh, soul or angel. Seems you were really going out on a limb. Honestly, my employer respects a stand like that, but picking fights with German officers doesn't seem so healthy to me.
Yeah, well, you're not exactly my doctor now, are you, Jen?
No, but I didn't nearly get beaten up in a dark alley either. You know, word is, there's going to be a few more Germans wandering around next year. They're boosting the garrison.
Great. Some more Japanese, too, sooner or later.
Word is, the Germans are going to try something. Kick the Japanese out of town.
I wouldn't buy it. This is Shanghai. Someone starts something here, and they'll have the whole of Washington down on their heads faster than you can say Jack Robinson. Besides, it'd be bad for business.
Never said I believed it, but you never know either. The political winds can turn on a dime. Now, you want to clean yourself up a little. We're almost there, Duncan.
When we pulled up to Ladlow's Casanova, I wasn't exactly thrilled. A neon-studded lower-class outfit, the club brought in the opposite of my usual clientele. Soldiers, sailors, and middle-class Chinese. Whatever business we were walking into, its chances of being over the table were dropping by the minute. Like any club anywhere, the Casanova was thick with cigarette smoke, the bar abuzz. On a stage against the far wall was the night's main act, an all-female song and dance, their tinsel streamers spinning and sparkling in the limelight. Glowing lamps at scattered tables illuminated all kinds of food, drink, and half-lit faces, talking, drinking, smoking, or simply watching, enraptured as the dancers twisted and twirled. One such table was our destination, larger and set aside. I assumed the man sitting there was my prospective employer, but something else caught my eye. An old ama sat one seat over, asleep, countless drinks and platefuls of picked-out food in front of her. Strange. Few men brought their mothers to a nightclub.
Here he is, Mr. Ainsworth. Found him right where you said he'd be.
Thank you for bringing him, Miss Chen. Please, sir, take a seat.
Thanks. Now what's this all about? I'm not so keen on getting dragged halfway across town without an explanation.
Then you'll be pleased to learn that this is a fairly straightforward matter. You owe quite a substantial debt, I'm afraid, which we cannot allow to remain unpaid.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. Now, if we could just arrange a currency and method of transaction, the total sum of your debt comes down to a couple of...
As soon as the word debt passed his lips, I knew this was just some fraudster's idea of a shakedown. I talked my way out of worse, and even the Casanova wasn't the kind of place anyone could afford to get violent. While he blabbed, my eyes wandered, eventually settling on the stage. Those dancers really were a buxom bunch, with tight-fitting costumes absent in all the right places.
Next, we'll be hearing from the magnificent Swinging Sevens. Come on out, boys.
It sure was disappointing to see the girls prance off stage.
哎，操你妈的！老子才不要看他们！快他妈给我把美女带回来！
Now give it up for the Sevens. This man from...
看到了吧？这就是跟老子
Hell? My heart almost skipped a beat. The man who just shot the Casanova's host was one of the most vicious and violent warlords in China. This lunatic, called Zhang Songchang, was said to have the body of an elephant, the brain of a pig, and the temperament of a tiger. Zhang was known for splitting his enemies' heads like melons and hanging others from telephone poles. Unfortunately, my debt to him was very, very real. It wasn't the kind of money I had under the mattress. But frankly, given the man's wealth and complete disregard for the size of his own wallet, I thought he'd never collect.
哎呦 ，Duncan！ 哈哈哈哈哈！哎呀，你这个样子是跟人打架去了吗？
My employer asked...
Yeah, I know what he's asking. Yeah, I got in a fight.
不错嘛，你打赢了。
Shoulda, I won all right. Right, Chen?
没错。
去他娘的债吧！这活就交给他了。对，就让他跟姓孙的一起做。
Of course.
By now, the panicked crowd had cleared out, leaving just the five of us around the table. For a desperate moment, I hoped the police would break up whatever this was. The man had just been shot in plain sight, after all. Maybe I could make a getaway. From the corner of my eye, I saw two police officers quietly shuffling out. Sure enough, they disappeared into the night rather than face Zhang. So much for that, then. Zhang, casually as ever, stowed his pistol, sat down alongside his mother, and started tearing into a plate of chicken. The host was being dragged away by 2 stagehands, moaning, leaving a thin trail of blood. Nobody said a word. So, you need me to do a job. What kind of job?
My employer recently lost a wager with League Marshal Sun Chongfang. And recently...
Yeah, I heard. Look, I'm a comprador, not some kind of hired gun. Besides, going up against the Smiling Tiger in his own den would be as good as a death sentence. I'll pay what you want, when you want, and then we can go our separate ways. Deal? I was lying, of course. The kind of money I owed Zhang, I didn't have. But I was running out of options, and fast.
Sir, even if that were a possibility, I wasn't finished. As I'm sure you're aware, gambling over mere money would have been meaningless to both gentlemen. Instead, they bet against the contents of their hotel suites. The monetary loss was, of course, immaterial. But a wound pride is not so easily remedied. The job my employer is offering you is to arrange the return of the entire contents of the Cathay Hotel's Japanese suite. Most items are already on the open market. I have a comprehensive printed list right here.
1 custom-marked and gold-plated presentation saber, 3 blue parade uniforms with affixed medals, 15 tatami mats. Hold on. What's this number 1 scribbled in at the end?
I'm sure you'll discover that information as you proceed with your search, sir. In exchange, your debt will be forgiven, of course, alongside a generous bonus in silver. However, I should warn you, several parties have already been set to the same task, all with a substantial lead. Your chances could be better.
I'll bet you've hired a bunch of gumshoes. Maybe Green Gang thugs, bumbling Russian mercenaries.
I really couldn't say. But if betting were your strong suit, Mr. Duncan, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Touché. Tell me, what happens if everything goes sideways?
We have a few options. None of them are good for you.
My attention drifted over to Shang, still cheerfully tearing into a plate of chicken, apparently oblivious to our conversation. Next to him, his mother continued snoring away. There was something about the warlord's eyes. Too much white. Felt like staring at a hungry lion. After weighing my odds, I turned back to the representative. Well, good thing it won't come to that. Knowing all there is to know in this city is my job. I can find what you need, no trouble. But first, I need some guarantees.
I think you're overselling your position, sir. I'm offering you the job as is, and that's final. Either you take it here and now, or I cannot guarantee the continued good behavior of my employer. What will it be?
Fine. Consider it done.
Excellent. Good day, Mr. Duncan, and best of luck to you. Don't keep us waiting.
Walking away from the Casanova that night, I started considering my options. It was all just a little too perfect. First, the Germans show up and get uppity. Then the Japanese start offering jobs. Now Zhang Songchang himself popped up in Shanghai to collect a debt he'd probably long since forgotten. Ever had the creeping sense that the board is being moved around you, and you just can't see it? That night in Shanghai, I wasn't a player. I was being played. What I didn't know was who was moving the pieces.
Mr. Hong?
It's late, miss, and I'm not in the mood for an infidelity case. You want an inspector? Go through the front desk.
This is not a marital affair, Mr. Hong. My name is Louise Lacroix. I'm here about your son.
My son? I haven't seen him in 3 months.
He's being hunted by the German consular police, and that means military intelligence too.
I said I hadn't seen him. I can guess well enough what he's up to. You know what? While I'm at it, I'm gonna guess some more. You work for the Commune of France. They've got you working for the KMT, and you want something from me. Is that right?
Exactement. In the coming days, you will receive a call from a comprador called Frank Duncan. You must feed him some information. Nothing more.
What makes you think you can ask for anything? Anything at all? After you ruined my son's life in the pursuit of some pipe dream. You weren't here during the 32 uprising, I'll bet, Miss Lacroix. Suzhou Creek was clogged with bodies, swollen and black. A smell like you wouldn't believe. Over at North Station, they were throwing KMT into locomotive fireboxes like tinderwood. Some were still alive. The syndicalist revolution died then and there, miss. My son just doesn't know it yet. Nor, apparently, do you.
The KMT has been dealt a blow, yes. But an idea is not so easily killed, Inspector. Your son knows this. He is a freedom fighter, a hero. You should be proud of him.
And how exactly do you syndicalists see this playing out? Another revolution? A KMT government in Beijing? An end to imperialism in Asia? Has it occurred to you who I work for?
You work for money. Anyone who'll pay. At least, that's what your son says.
It's not that simple.
Then show me, Inspector Hong. And show your son. What I'm asking for is a trifling affair.
I've known Duncan for years.
It's just information, Inspector. You falsify reports, destroy evidence, cover up murders, all for the Green Gang. What I'm asking of you is harmless in comparison. Besides, it's not like the Commune of France can't pay for your services.
Fine. I'll pass Duncan the information, but I think you've got me wrong, Miss Lacroix.
Ever now.
Thanks to people like you and your ideas, one day I'm gonna lose a son. That's something I've come to terms with. It's his choice. His life. But my grandkids, they're 6 and 8. They're gonna lose a father. That's why I do what I do, Miss Lacroix. The least I can do is take from you and give to them.
If that's what helps you sleep at night, Inspector, who am I to disagree? I'll see myself out.
What have you gotten yourself wrapped up in this time, Frank Duncan?
Thank you all for watching or listening to the second episode of Nights in Shanghai. Nights in Shanghai is an audio drama series set in the old history world of Kaiserreich. In Kaiserreich, a German victory in the Great War ends up collapsing the British and French colonial empires, completely altering the balance of power in Europe and beyond. I am Vincent Anil, one of the directors at Kaiserreich Cinema and an illustrator during my daylight hours. In response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and in support of our Ukrainian crew members, we are now running a Ukraine Red Cross fundraiser on our webshop. Ukraine is not just fighting, but winning against all odds and overwhelming Russian forces. But their victory comes at a cost. Already, millions are displaced and tens of thousands dead, and the war seems far from over. Ukrainian people will need all of us to help them rebuild. Please consider buying some Ukrainian merchandise to show your support for the people victimized by Putin's war. All proceedings from our Ukraine fundraiser go towards the International Red Cross, who provide relief for wartime refugees. Finally, you can also visit our sister project, flagmakerprint.com. Flagmaker Print is an online flag making app allowing anyone to design and print their own alt history flags. These projects would not be possible without the enduring support of our 180 plus patrons. Patrons get exclusive behind the scenes access to our projects and can make cameo appearances in our art and animations. If you watch this show as a video, you may have noticed several patrons in the art of this very episode. Visit patreon.com/KaiserCatCinema to learn more about our patron program and back the attack. We end every show by thanking our top patrons and welcoming our newest supporters. After the release of the Divided States episode 1, we saw an enormous surge in patron sponsorship. We want to welcome Spectrum, Gray Hauser, Josh Nygaard, Deron Bolton, Timothy Williams, Konjak, Brandon Embry Zirike, Mr. Bagel, Brian Buraga, Phileas, Diexida, Tikerzius, Oven Hala, Yuhan Peng, Awesome Bagel, Captain K, Joshua Ernest, Box115, Aaron, Wu, Gregory N, Ethan Naftalin, Xpan, Geolox, Max Neves, Abnev, Louis, Barros, Wilbu, Jeremy DeLuca, Eric Solforce, James Luo, Commissar Mudo, The Alibi 6, Russell March, Max Caval, and Guy Chi. As always, we want to end the video by thanking our top patron backers, James Carroll, Isiel, Mr. Knowledge, and John Thomas Justice. If you are new to the channel, make sure to check out our other audio shows, such as Kaiserreich Radio, or our original animatic series, The Divided States. Thank you all for listening, or watching, and I will see you for the next one. Vincent out.